Welcome back. I'm Elaine Reyes. In Mexico, the drug war between the government and various cartels has left up to 60,000 people dead in just the last few years. Tens of thousands of people remain unaccounted for or missing. An increasing number of communities have been taking law and order into their own hands in reaction to the violence that has plagued their country. Self-defense brigades are springing up in the southern part of Mexico, mainly in rural areas, where government police forces have not been able to protect communities from criminal gangs. The phenomenon has worried authorities that vigilante justice could be spiraling out of control. America's Now contributing correspondent John Holman recently traveled to Guerrero in southwest Mexico. He reports that more and more vulnerable communities say they have no choice when it comes to applying their own form of justice.
Night patrol on Mexico's southwest coast. These men wearing masks may look like gang members, but in reality they're farmers from a town called Ayutla. And they've taken the law into their own hands. The masks, they say, are necessary to protect their identity from the real criminals who tried to take over their town. This area used to be filled with gangs. Now, after 10 p.m, these patrols are the only ones out on the street. Local townspeople, mostly small-scale farmers, who have become the authority here. The masked men, who also refuse to give their real names, man checkpoints during the day. They're looking for those who have attacked their community.
Tomar las armas porque no había otra solución. El gobierno pues los abandonó, no hizo lo que tenía que hacer.
It's what's known as a self-defense brigade. And after the local police failed to protect them, many brigades like this one have been combating the numerous gangs in the state of Guerrero.
Y por eso el campesino se vio obligado a tomar esta decisión, pues, aunque es sumamente peligroso para nosotros.
The men from this community are manning their checkpoint 24 hours a day, and they're stopping and searching every car that's not from the community. Each car is checked against a list of people wanted for a whole host of crimes, including murder, kidnapping and extortion, crimes that have made life a misery for many here. Ayutla lived in sleepy peace until a couple of years ago. Then the gangs moved in. The chief of police was killed. The mayor's daughter was kidnapped. Everyone here seems to know someone who was extorted for money or whose relative disappeared. Araceli Bello says that robberies, assaults and extortions were all too frequent for those working in the marketplace, but she remained one of the lucky ones until one night in December when she was on her way home from work and some gang members stopped her.
A mí me asaltaron, me quitaron lo poquito que yo vendí. Pedí auxilio y nadie me quiso auxiliar por miedo. Ya se había visto que había muchos que asaltaban y robaban y no hacían nada por ellos.
Bello says no one came to her defense.
Yo pedí auxilio y nadie me quiso auxiliar por miedo, porque ya estaba tantas cosas, pues ya había, ahora sí que ya se había visto que había muchos que asaltaban y robaban y no hacían nada por ellos.
But just 2 weeks later, that began to change when locals decided that enough was enough, setting up self-defense brigades, replacing the police as the de facto authority in the area. And in a sweeping round of arrests, they brought in over 50 people who were accused of being connected to organized crime. Ayutla's troubles, however, are part of the bigger picture. Over 70,000 Mexicans have been killed in the ongoing battle between rival criminal groups and government forces in the last few years. The poorest communities in Mexico have been amongst the hardest hit by the violence. Lack of resources and the scarcity of law and order often make them easy prey for criminals. Violence first arrived in Ayutla when gangs branched out from the nearest big city, Acapulco. This seaside resort was once famous for its hotels, beaches and celebrity visitors. Now it's become a battleground for rival criminal groups. Authorities have responded by sending in increasing numbers of federal police and the army. Checkpoints dot the coastal road along the city. and the state government says that crime has gone down as a result. But Sergio Sarmiento, an expert in rural communities and organizations, says that while Acapulco and other big cities have received help from the government, the towns around them have been largely ignored.
Autoorganizarnos, ¿no? Al ver que no tienen respuesta del Estado y porque además la mayoría de la vigilancia se da en los lugares más atractivos, en las grandes ciudades, y se centra en Acapulco, ¿no? Como si Guerrero fuera solo Acapulco. ¿Y nosotros cuándo? También nosotros somos guerrerenses, ¿no? Pero pues ahí para allá no va la policía, ¿no?
But the self-defense groups that have recently sprung up in Guerrero aren't the first time that villagers here have been forced to solve their problems themselves. The south coast of the state has been afflicted by murder, robbery and rape for many years. In 1995, the mainly indigenous communities in the region came together to solve the problems. And this was the answer they came up with, a fully formed indigenous police force. They call it the Community Police. The 800-strong force has been operating on Guerrero's south coast for the past 17 years, not far from where the new self-defense brigades have risen up in Ayutla. It's been seen as a model for how civil policing movements can develop. While the self-defense brigades have been cropping up all over the country, making the rules up as they go along, the community police has solidified into a highly structured organisation that answers only to the General Assembly of the communities here, has its own uniforms, jails and justice system. Indigenous authorities say that since it was formed, crime has gone down by about 90%. Units are stationed in more than 60 communities across the region. Alejandro Bolaños is the commander of the 12-strong force stationed in the village of Tuxtepec. He was one of the very first to sign up after his father was robbed and the state police did nothing.
Le pasó a mi jefe, sí, le tocó, sí, le golpearon y no me gustó lo que está pasando, sí, porque es mucho, pues, sí, porque como le digo, casi esa gente hacen desmadre y media porque fíjate de que asaltan y matan y golpean y luego violan, no eran muchos. 18.
Like many on this coast, Bolaños says the police were ineffectual and easily bought. He and his officers have lived here all their lives and, like all community policemen, were voted in by their fellow villagers. They serve for 1 year at a time before new officers are chosen.